how's it going?
Good evening, everyone. That one caught me a little bit off guard there. I was listening to the sound of the intro from Andy's computer right outside the door. So just like, okay, are we ready? Are we ready? But I wasn't keeping track of the intro myself. He points out that we do have the old 6 p.m. opener, and that is true. We need Wake Up Waverly to adjust our opener for us. So we will figure out a way to have him do that for us, and it's going to be awesome. But if you know, we're on at 7, not 6. That is our new time. I was just looking up the numbers on Catholics in Los Angeles because that's actually going to be a factor in what we're talking about tonight. I found it really interesting. So I heard from a Catholic commentator, I think on one of the Daily Wire shows the other day, saying that Los Angeles is the largest diocese in the country. That's not correct. It is the largest archdiocese, I believe. As of 2004, I see there's also a really, really big one in Charlotte, North Carolina, which is not where I would have expected it. But we'll look at the numbers. It's pretty great. I think the Dodgers might have made a really big mistake. They're trying to fix it. It's so interesting. We are so ready to get into it. But we also have to talk about Bud Light. We have to talk about Anheuser. We have to talk about Anheuser-Busch. We have to talk about Target. We have to talk about BlackRock. It's going to be a really interesting conversation tonight. I was going to do like an end of the week roundup, but we just have interesting things pretty much from today. So, let's get into it for sure. You guys, I'm also streaming on Rumble. In fact, let me make sure that's working over there. Mute that. There we go. All right, what do we got? Is this working? Is this thing on? Okay, there we go. Cool. Perfect. All right. Yeah. So jump over to Rumble. If you don't want to be on YouTube anymore, it's good to not have a single point of failure / censorship. So let's get going. This is cool. All right. So I'm going to make sure I have this the right size before I switch over to this camera. Let's talk first about Target, because Target, as we mentioned yesterday, has lost billions of dollars over just the last week, I think it is. And I really want to look. Okay, so there's a lady who is familiar with stocks and bonds and finance stuff. So we're going to read some of her comments. This is what I had to say in response to Ezra Levant, who said, investors are panicking about Target's bizarre Bud Light marketing campaign. The company's stock lost another $1 billion in value this morning, but I don't think they'll stop. Their largest investor is BlackRock, which is where these instructions are coming from. Very interesting point. So I said, crush them. I know it sounds impossible, but BlackRock has Achilles heels too. Let's read what Jen has to say. BlackRock holds funds in trust for others. It's not theirs. If they betray their fiduciary responsibility, they can and will be sued. Here's Andy. Hello, dear. What's going on? Can you hear me? Can you see me? What's up?
Was it your desktop audio or something?
Is it echoing? Is that better? That's better. Thanks, dear. Andy's just trying to take a nap, and I am not letting him do that, so sorry. Anyway, yes, BlackRock holds funds in trust for others. That's right. This is why we saw states divesting from BlackRock, and I shared a screenshot of that a little bit further down. Really interesting stuff. I said I need to learn more about how they operate. Finance and law are my personal Achilles heels on that topic. And Jen adds, I worked for an investment firm in early 2000s. If you hire a firm to manage your investments and they ignore a big red flag and lose you money, you can sue them. And I said, go on. From my understanding, BlackRock manages a lot of retirement funds for big companies and municipalities. That's right. That's why states are shaking this off, Florida being one of the largest ones to do that. On paper, like at DCC, I'm not sure what that is, it would show up under them, but internal accounting would assign each share of stock, mutual fund, etc. to each account holder they would be required to. Balance securities and cash daily to the penny. Balance securities and cash daily to the penny. Say Walmart had their 401ks managed at BlackRock and BlackRock was losing them money instead of making them money. Each Walmart employee invested could sue them if it was apparent negligence on BlackRock's part. That is interesting. What do you guys think about that? I said, so this is why conservative states are moving away from investing state pensions with them. The one thing I'm not sure of using your sign any waiver for investing or an ESG fund. You had for the hedge funds when I worked in the industry. You had to for the hedge funds when I worked in the industry. That was because of the little oversight by the SEC. ESG products are likely woke mutual funds. Okay, if any of that made any sense to you guys, by all means, let me know in the chat. That's a little above my pay grade, but I did share this screenshot with her. What states are divested from BlackRock? So far, state financial officers from Florida, $2 billion. Louisiana, $794 million. Arizona, $543. Missouri, $500. South Carolina, $200. Arkansas, $125. Utah, $100. And West Virginia, $21.8 million, have made the decision to divest from BlackRock. That's crazy. So I think I'm going to sign up for reminders from atr.org about ESG tracking. That's really interesting stuff because I want to know how to defeat them. I just don't know anything about finance. So here's my chance to learn because we have the real world option to do that here. I thought that was super interesting. And there actually is a conservative ACVF is a conservative thing that's divesting from Target Corp in the wake of their latest woke debacle. Say that 3 times fast. Let's see here. Today, the American Conservative Values ETF, New York Stock Exchange ACVF, announced that it had divested its holdings of and initiated a refuse to buy rating of Target Corp TGT on May 24th, 2023. Target Corp's ever-increasing pandering to the woke LGBT agenda has backfired, and its management team's inept response to a crisis of their own making has significantly damaged their brand across the political spectrum. Oh, let's see here. Indeed it has. We believe their stock's long-term performance will suffer because of it. Their actions have also removed any doubt about the company's hostility to conservative values. After a comprehensive review of our continued investment in Target, ACVF's management team has decided to divest its holdings of Target Corp TGT. Not only weren't they smart enough to stay apolitical, they picked the wrong side, stated ACVF CEO and co-founder William Flagg. Hopefully, the examples of Target and Bud Light reinforce the need for liberal corporate managers to focus on maximizing shareholder returns and stop playing politics, stated ACVF's president and co-founder Tom Carter, adding, "Go woke, go broke is real." This is a horribly punctuated, horribly edited article from Yahoo Finance, but this is actually the press release from ACVF. So come on, guys, get somebody who can write this stuff for you. According to Investors Business Daily, Anheuser-Busch's market value has dropped a staggering $15.7 billion between April 1st and May 23rd. JP Morgan analyst Jared Bings told his clients, "We believe there is a subset of American consumers who will not drink a Bud Light for the foreseeable future," adding, "We believe a 12 to 13% volume decline on an annualized basis would be a reasonable assumption." That is a large percentage to lose over one beer can. Somebody mentioned yesterday this will be the most expensive beer can in history, and I think that's true. ACVF attempts to dynamically align with the concerns of the politically conservative investors without sacrificing performance. We do not want to invest in the likes of Disney, Meta, BlackRock, Google, etc. We do not want to give these companies that are eagerly working to destroy conservative values our hard-earned investment dollars, and neither should you, states Flagg. Target has shown their true colors, stated Tom Carter, adding, "We have been keeping an eye on Target's behavior for some time. Although we have historically perceived Target as trending towards the woke liberal agenda, we felt their behavior wasn't the worst of the worst among general merchandising companies. In our ongoing survey of woke/liberal companies, Target ranked 9th overall in our June 2022 survey, with 10% of participants selecting them as their top 3 most woke/liberal companies. This was up significantly from 3% of participants in our previous survey. Giving conservatives investors the power to respond to such concerns is an example of why we built ACVF. So in case you forgot, ACVF stands for American Conservative Values ETF, and I believe that's electronic trading fund, but I'm not sure because, again, I don't know anything about finance. But this is interesting to me because I didn't even realize that there were like conservative trading funds or whatever this thing is. Really, really interesting. I'm going to have to look into them. Let's see. They have a list of current boycotts. Let's see what they've got there. We refuse to invest in the companies most hostile to conservative values. All right, let's see then. Let's show all of these. Apple Inc., Amazon, American Express, Bank of America, BlackRock, Comcast, Salesforce, Delta Air, Walt Disney, Dick's Sporting Goods, and this is all the way back from 2020, General Motors, Alphabet Inc., of course, Goldman Sachs, Johnson & Johnson, JP Morgan Chase, Coca-Cola Company, Lowe's companies, Meta, NASDAQ, Netflix, Nike, on and on and on, Pfizer, good, PayPal, Starbucks, good, AT&T, Target, Target as of the 24th of this month, Twitter Inc. delisted 11/8/22. Interesting. I wonder if that was when Elon bought Twitter? I don't even remember when it was. Interesting. United Health, yeah, none of this surprises me. So there are 35 entries on their list of boycotted companies, so they still have a wide range of companies they can invest in, just not these ones. Very interesting. So let's see if we can learn more about this thing. Align your investing with your conservative values. The American Conservative Values ETF is based on the conviction that politically active companies negatively impact their shareholder returns. Yeah, that's pretty clear. As well as support issues and causes that conflict with conservative political ideas, beliefs, and values. Fascinating. Let's see what Don't Tread on Me says. As a longtime passionate conservative and professional investor, I've often been frustrated watching major corporations support causes that are antithetical to my conservative ideals, beliefs, and values. I'm tired of investing in these companies. In response, I created an ETF company to service fellow conservative investors, Ridgeline Research. Our first ETF, the American Conservative Values ETF, ACVF, seeks to boycott as many companies hostile to conservative values as possible without sacrificing performance. Thank you for visiting our website. I'm proud to share this message with you, opportunity with you, and hope to hear from you. That's great. I'm happy to hear that. Again, I don't know anything about finance, but I do think it's positive that we have conservatives. So if you guys want to check this out, this site is acvetfs.com/boycotts. Pretty simple. I can put a link in the description. In fact, let me put it into the YouTube chat right now, and you guys can look into that for yourselves because it is a very interesting list with a lot of really interesting companies on it. So let's see where we're going to next. I'm going to close this tab. I just thought that was super interesting. Didn't even know that was a thing. We are moving on over to Los Angeles. So let's hop on over and see what the Dodgers have been up to. Here we are, Christian Faith and Family Day at the Dodger Stadium, July 30th, 2023. These guys cannot win for losing. This makes me wonder what a terrible baseball team they are. I don't know anything about them. Join us at Dodger Stadium on 7:30 for Christian Faith and Family Day. Stay after the game to celebrate and be part of a day of worship. Stay tuned for more details. Clayton Kershaw. Let's see who this dude is. He is Colossians 3:23. Don't know anything about him, but I assume he's affiliated with the Dodgers. Kind of looks like it. I don't really know. Yeah, it doesn't say. I don't know anything about him, but that's terrible. I was cursing at them, so don't mind that. Can't wait for the ads. Ron says I didn't vet this, but if it's real, it could be a lot of fun. This is from Catholic Vote. Did you see this? The LA Dodgers are promoting an anti-Christian hate group, the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence. If you'll recall, they actually backed off this because Catholic Vote requested they do so because it's incredibly disrespectful to the entire Catholic faith. So they said, okay, we won't invite them. And then they said, no, you know what? We are going to invite them. And I will show you why in just a minute, but bear with me. Hold that thought. Where drag queens pole dance on a crucifix, dress as our Lord in drag, mock Christ's road to Calvary in a gay bar crawl, and so much more. It is disgusting and the latest approbation of anti-Christian hate by woke corporations. Their lewd, vile conduct will be featured during Pride Month where children will be attending the games. We must fight back. Catholic Vote is raising $1 million to run ads on every Dodgers-linked radio station and TV channel to send a clear message. I love this brilliant idea, and in fact, I'm pretty sure they already raised their $1 million. Molly asks, are you going to reuse the cross from the blasphemous pole dance performed by the anti-Catholic hate group you guys are honoring in June? That's a great question. Really great question. And lots of these comments are no, screw you, which is a version of what I said. I said the unfamily friendly version of that because I'm tired of this. And they're pushing it in the hopes that the Catholic... Oh my gosh, you guys. Okay, so here's where we're going to look at the size of the archdiocese in LA. So these numbers are from 2004. So bear with me. These are just the ones I was able to pull up real quick. We have 4,174,304 Catholics in a city of approximately 11,096,200 people, which makes them 37.62% Catholic. And the LA Dodgers just revolted all of those people. And you know what's really interesting too? I think it might be interesting to note that probably a lot of the people who really enjoy baseball as like a family affair are large Latino families who do trend Catholic. Guess they didn't really think about that one when they decided to invite the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence to perform for the people who go to their games. And we have New York, Chicago, Boston, Brooklyn, Philadelphia, Detroit, Rockville Center, Newark, Orange, California. Yeah. So there are some really, really big ones. I have no idea. So here's a small one in Van Nuys. I don't know anything about that. But yeah, I just thought it was super interesting. I was like, oh, you know what? Maybe they should have thought that through before they decided to host this incredibly disrespectful, revolting performance. I don't care if it is Pride Month. We don't actually live in a pride-oriented country. That's not our religion. A majority of the people who live here are Christian or specifically Catholic. That's something they would do well to remember. So let's look at this. Teachers Union told LA Dodgers students could die if drag queens weren't reinvited to Pride Night. So this is the pressure they were getting from the left, from the teachers unions. Absolutely insane. The most dramatic people in the world. Andy and I just watched a short documentary from PragerU about teachers unions. Teachers unions have to be among the worst of the worst of the worst of the worst. And I just can't help thinking this is such a common state school L. It really is. This is just never be happening. Let's read this from the Washington Free Beacon, whom we love. A powerful California teachers union was part of a successful pressure campaign to get the LA Dodgers to reinvite the group of drag queen nuns to the team's annual Pride Night. The union suggested that LGBT students' lives were at stake. That's why the LA Dodgers came out and said that they were doing life-saving work. So they really let slip. Nonsense. Kanye Ron says kids could die. How ridiculous indeed. Michael says, I'm proud to be an American. I am too. I love America. I love Americans. I hate our government and I hate this culture war. Put it that way. Fighting the culture war and hating our government are in no way opposed to being proud Americans. Smokey Bear says, Test. I see you there in the Rumble chat. Welcome on in. At a time when LGBTQ plus rights are under attack across the country with more than 400 pieces of legislation filed in states, at a time when 45% of the youth report seriously considering suicide each year, we should be leading with love and inclusion in California rather than sowing division, the California Teachers Association president said in a statement on Monday, referring to a spate of red state legislation restricting sex change treatment for minors. These people are teaching children. They're teaching your children if they're in a public school, especially if they're in California. Make no mistake, these people hate you and they want your children to indoctrinate and point to the left. Yep. Trevor Project survey. Right. Okay. So a 2022 Trevor Project survey talking about how many of these poor LGBTQ plus youth are mentally disturbed, which we know because they are TQ plus. Our students are watching what happens on and off the field. So they're talking about kids in the context of incredibly sexually explicit drag queens. And I just have to say, that's a red flag. These are teachers. They're pushing incredibly sexually explicit drag queens, and they're doing it for the children. Sus, to say the least. The union had resolved to speak out after the Dodgers rescinded an offer to honor the drag group known as the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence for its advocacy before a June 16th home game against the San Francisco Giants. The resolution, which was obtained by the Washington Free Beacon, was even further than the union's public statement, likening the controversy over the baseball game ceremony to the AIDS epidemic. Jeez. Silence equals death has long been a refrain of the LGBTQIA plus community. It's getting longer. I'm so sick of it. And though it refers to refusal to acknowledge the AIDS crisis, silence in the face of the national assault upon these marginalized youth will likely lead to more deaths. The flamboyantly overdramatic resolution read. Those are my words. I'm editorializing a little bit. Between 1981 and 1990, more than 100,000 people died of AIDS in the United States, the overwhelming majority of whom were gay men. There is no evidence that the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence or sex change treatments for minors save lives. The Catholic Teachers Association over-the-top advocacy for the sisters highlights the union's powerful role in California's progressive politics. Not only should these people not be in politics at all, they should never, under any circumstances, be aligning children, actual, literal, physical children, with overt sexualized performance by clear, gender-confused activists like the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence. It's not just about religion. This goes so much deeper, and that a teachers' union pushed this and got the Dodgers to change their position is truly disturbing. Like, this is actually one of the more disturbing twists I've seen in this whole culture war thing today, although I'm sure more will arise tomorrow. Stevie J says, I'm so tired of hearing do everything we want or, what does it say? Or kids will die. It's disgusting how they leverage kids. That's right. And they're not even their kids. They're your kids because they know that you'll listen if they're holding your kids hostage. I cannot emphasize this enough. All children of conservative people need to be out of state schools. They need to go to charter schools. They need to go to private schools. They need to be somewhere else. So if you live in a state that gives you options for educational funding, please, 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 please take advantage of it. I know not everyone can homeschool. I know it's hard with money. Money can be super tight, especially with this ridiculous Biden economy. But holy cow, we care about the future. We've got to get our kids out of the clutches of these kinds of people. The California Teachers Association's over-the-top advocacy, right. Okay, it has consistently ranked among the biggest spending lobbyists in the state legislature and has supported California's growing embrace of transgenderism in school. So again, to reiterate, because I cannot say this strongly enough, the people teaching children in California are pushing child sex change surgeries. They're comparing it to actual death, aka with AIDS, and they're saying that drag queens save lives. So, fascinating takes from the people who should not be politically involved at all, but are using people's children as political pawns. Good stuff. Hours after the union weighed in, joining LA Pride and others, the Dodgers caved and agreed to recognize the sisters as originally planned. The team on Monday offers its sincerest apologies to the drag group and its allies and pledged to continue to work with the LGBTQ plus partners to better educate ourselves. The sisters confirmed it had accepted the Dodgers' renewed invitation. This is huge. Thank you also for affirming your commitment to our queer and trans youth. Understanding and acceptance starts with education. Education starts with teachers with a capital T. Interesting connection there. Let's read this real fast. They do call it life-saving work that these actual drag queens are doing. After much thoughtful feedback from our diverse communities, honest conversations within the Los Angeles Dodgers organization, and generous discussions with the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence, the LA Dodgers would like to offer our sincerest apologies to the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence, members of the LGBTQ plus community, and their friends and families. We have asked the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence to take their place on the field at our 10th annual LGBTQ plus Pride Night on June 16th. We're pleased to share that they have agreed to receive the gratitude of our collective communities for their life-saving work that they have done tirelessly for decades. Okay, so these are the literal fingerprints of the teachers' union, as was also mentioned in the tweet from this person, whoever they are. Let's see if we can pull that up. Sister Rama. This is huge. Thank you, We Are CTA, for not only supporting the drag nuns, but also for affirming your commitment to our queer trans youth. Understanding them, with teachers. Yeah, so California Teachers Association. Very, very interesting. I cannot emphasize this enough. These are the people who are in charge of children for 8 to 12 hours per day. They control politics in California, and they control what your children see even when they're not at school. So that might be something worth noting. Kanye Ron says Dodgers endorse a hate group. Literally, yes. Literally, yes, because it's very clear that the people they are mocking with this drag show are religious people, which is really interesting because people keep pointing out to me, and it's difficult to properly parse, but it is true that religious people and white people are the last two groups that you can mock and that you can take advantage of and that you can deride without consequence in the United States. But speaking of Pride Month, I know you're all very excited because we're ramping up to it. We're not even there yet, guys. It's not even June yet. And we're having all this stuff. I think this June is going to be a turning point in our culture war history. I really think we'll look back on this year's June and be like, this is when it changed. This is when conservatives, this is when normal people and parents of normal children started to notice that things were really, really bad for them. And they started to take steps to make it stop in its tracks. Might be too late, and it's certainly going to take a lot longer than just one summer to fix all the damage that has been done. But hold on, let me reel this in a little bit and then I can show you guys. Yeah, I can't, whatever. All right, OBS, thanks for nothing. Bud Light, Anheuser-Busch doubled down on transgender insanity, sponsor pride parades across the U.S. So, Anheuser-Busch doesn't care about money, apparently, because this is not going to help. They are still reeling from literally April 1st. I remember thinking that the trans activist ad thing, the Instagram post, was an April Fool's joke. I was like, there's no way this is real. This has to be a joke. It's April Fool's Day. Of course, it's what it is. It was not. It's now at the end of May and they are still struggling with this. But apparently, they don't care. Let's read what their plans are from the Federalist, whom we also love. After facing much deserved backlash for partnering with woman pretender trans activist, Bud Light and its parent company, Anheuser-Busch, are doubling down on their endorsement of trans insanity by sponsoring numerous upcoming pride parades across the country. Now this, I think we're watching this tap dancing because they lost their human rights certification or whatever it was, their recognition as being like a wonderful place to work for LGBTQIA plus WTF people. And I think that's what they're trying to get back here. I don't think it's going to work. On Thursday, the Daily Wire's Spencer Lindquist reported that the beer brand is listed as a sponsor for several upcoming LGBT private events in cities like Cincinnati and Columbus, Ohio, as well as St. Louis, Missouri. According to Lindquist, Bud Light will be co-sponsoring the 2023 Cincinnati Pride Parade alongside Planned Parenthood and the Cincinnati Children's Hospital. While the former performs horrifying abortions on unborn babies, the latter provides harmful puberty blockers and performs trans surgeries on minors. Well, the good news in that is that Planned Parenthood is also offering puberty blockers, so that's exciting. The Cincinnati Pride Parade did not respond to the Federalist request for comment on when Bud Light provided its initial sponsorship for the group's upcoming event. Meanwhile, in St. Louis, Missouri, where Anheuser-Busch is headquartered, the company is listed as the presenting sponsor of the St. Louis Pride Parade. The report reads, a sponsorship packet explains there are only 4 presenting sponsor slots available. The rainbow sponsorship tier located below the presenting sponsorship tier requires entities to pay $25,000. So clearly Anheuser-Busch is paying more than $25,000 to the Pride event. In Columbia, Bud Light is listed as a diamond sponsor for the city's upcoming Pride Parade, according to a document from Stonewall Columbus, which organizes and hosts the annual event. Companies are required to donate $20,000 to the organization in order to become diamond sponsors. In addition to Bud Light, other Anheuser-Busch brands are listed as sponsors for Pride Parade in several other cities, while Corona and Corona Hard Seltzer are both listed as sponsors of the upcoming Los Angeles Pride Parade. Cutwater Spirits is listed as a sponsor of the upcoming Chicago Pride Fest. Bud Light was also listed as a sponsor of the separate Chicago Pride Parade, but the webpage listed such information has been scrubbed, according to the report. That is interesting. These revelations come months after it was revealed that Bud Light made a transgender-identifying TikToker activist, not saying his name, a brand ambassador. On April 1st, the activist revealed on social media that Bud Light had sent him, thank you, Federalist, a beer can with his face on it to celebrate his year of girlhood, calling it his most prized possession. Wild. Bud Light sales have since plummeted, leaving some retailers to give cases of the beer away for free to avoid spoilage. As the Federalist reported, Twitter user Michael has reportedly shared pictures and displays from 2 stores in beer-loving Wisconsin with the infamous brand attempting to offload 20 packs originally priced at $15 for free after a rebate. I saw that. Anheuser-Busch did not respond to the Federalist request for comment on why the company decided to sponsor the aforementioned parades and if the company believed sponsoring these events would help bring back customers disaffected by the trans activist partnership. So they don't care at all. So it'll be really fun to see what happens to them. I do not see this rescuing their brand for whatever reason. I think it's probably BlackRock affiliated, but they really, 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 really want those sweet, sweet ESG points, and they are working really hard to get them back. We'll see what happens. All right, there's apparently a great chat going on over on Locals, so if you guys want to check that out, do that now, SourPatchLyds.locals.com. All right, we're going to talk next about high school debate, because this is something that I was involved in when I was in high school. It was something that was very near and dear to my heart and helped shape my argumentation, for better or for worse. You guys may make up your own minds about that. This is from the Free Press, which is Barry Weiss's Substack. Let's read on. At high school debates, debate is no longer allowed. That seems bad. What's the point? In national tournaments, judges are making their stances clear. Students who argue capitalism can reduce poverty or Israel has a right to defend itself will lose. No questions asked. Well, as far as I'm concerned, this is just getting them ready for the real world. But let's read on. My 4 years on a high school debate team in Broward County, Florida, taught me to challenge ideas, question assumptions, and think outside the box. It also helped me overcome a terrible childhood stutter, and I wasn't half bad. I placed 9th my first time at the National Speech and Debate Association Nationals, 6th at the Harvard National, and was runner-up at the Emory National. After college between 2017 and 2019, I coached a debate team at an underprivileged high school in Miami. There I witnessed the pillars of high school debate start to crumble. Since then, the decline has continued from competitive rewards from a competition that rewards evidence and reasoning to one that punishes students for what they say and how they say it. That's very sad. That's deeply troubling. First, some background. Imagine a high school sophomore that debate on the debate team. She's been given her topic about a month in advance, but she won't know who her judge is until hours before her debate round. Very interesting. This is different from the way the NCFCA used to do it. I competed in the National Christian Forensics Association, and they did not tell you ever who your judge was going to be. It looks like this league allows you to look up who your judge is and what their ideas are. They're called paradigms, how a judge looks at the way speakers present their issues. Very interesting how this changes the dynamic. During that time squeeze, perhaps she'll pace the halls as I did at the 2012 national tournament in Indianapolis. She will scroll her phone to look up her judge's name on Tabroom, a public database maintained by the NSCA. That's where judges post paradigms, which explain what they look for during a debate. If a judge prefers competitors not spread, speak a mile a minute, debaters will moderate their pace. If a judge emphasizes impacts, the reasons why an argument matters, debaters adjust accordingly. So what we always did with the NCFCA was, so this story was sent by a listener, but this is also something that I saw come directly from Barry Weiss. It's coming from multiple different sources, and I really appreciate it from all sources for sure, because this is something that affects me very dearly. And this is, again, going to target your kids if you want to get them interested in logic, reason, debate, communication, argumentation, etc. These are really important skills to have, and I fully intend to get my kids in on some of this in some form if we can find some kind of team, hopefully in Florida, that will do this for us. There the judges post paradigms. Yeah, so how we used to do this in the NCFCA was when we'd go in and meet our judges, we would ask them what exactly they were looking for. And they didn't exactly tell us their paradigms. It wasn't written down anywhere. But they would tell us things like, please don't talk too fast, right? I have a hard time taking notes when you talk too fast. Or make sure you let me know exactly how this will affect me as a taxpayer or how this would affect me as a parent. We discuss things like whether Turkey should be in NATO. We discussed things like the American border. We talked about the southern border. We talked about whether NATO should exist. Actually, we didn't talk about why Turkey should be in NATO. We talked about why NATO should exist, its importance in the world. And that was really interesting because I didn't know anything about NATO before that point. And I think that it's such a great way to expand your mind about all these topics. And then I think there are a couple different styles you can take. There's one called Lincoln Douglas debate, which is just one person versus one person. And you make slightly more emotional arguments, a little bit less evidence-based. I was always involved in policy debate, which is where you go in with a stack of papers, you have all your sources there, and you learn things like how to figure out what a good source is, right? Is the AP a good source? Back when I was using it, it was fine. Now it wouldn't be, right? And you learn how to analyze whether it's a good source or not. So you go in and you have to do a concise analysis of the little chunk of information you're using. And you turn that into what's called a tagline, so that's easy to take notes on. So you're basically summarizing little bits of different articles and trying to make sense of what exactly they're saying in a short, concise manner for your judge to take notes on. Really interesting. After college, between 2017 and 2019, I coached a debate team at an underprivileged high school, right? First, some background, right? We talked about this too. So let's say we're at a high school sophomore, clicks tab room. She sees that her judge is Lila Lavender. Okay, that sounds like a drag queen. The 2019 national debate champion, whose paradigm reads, before anything else, let's read this. Interesting. She, her, strong start. Hey y'all, I'm Lila. For both LD, Lincoln Douglas, and policy, I would like to be on an email chain. Email is ask me before round starts. If you have any questions or revolutionary criticisms of my paradigm, I would love for you to email me as well. To keep my paradigms as short as possible, I've also omitted my thoughts on how I evaluate each specific position. Interesting. If you have any questions about that, feel free to email me, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Theory. I'm good at evaluating theory and went for it all the time when I was competing. Vacuous debates just make me mad. Same, honestly. Go as fast as you want. I will be able to flow, that is, take notes on it. I judge every debate format in the same way, on the flow and based on, in one way or another, which team or debater wins offense that outweighs their opponent. Sure, that's fine. So let's read her paradigm. Before anything else, including being a debate judge, I am a Marxist-Leninist Maoist. I realized as a result of this, I cannot check the revolutionary proletarian science at the door when I'm judging, as that's both impossible and opportunistic. She has terrible writing. I'm correcting it as I go along. If you have had me as a judge before, this explicit decision of mine does not change how you understand I evaluate rounds. With one specific exception, I will no longer evaluate and thus ever vote for rightist, spelled incorrectly, sick, as they say, capitalist imperialist positions / arguments, meaning arguments / positions which defend the bourgeois class dictatorship. We are well into the range of Leninism over here. This is straight up from the Communist Manifesto. I digress. Monopoly capitalism and thus imperialism from a right-wing political form, i.e. the politics, ideology, and practice of the right wing of the bourgeois. I would just walk into this and be like, I'm going to lose this round. That's fine. I'll get the next one. This is unsustainable. Examples of arguments of this nature are as follows. Fascism, good. And who knows what she considers what she considers fascism. Capitalism, good. Imperialist war, good. Neoliberalism, good. Defenses of U.S. or otherwise bourgeois nationalism. So Zionism or normalizing Israel. Colonialism, good. U.S. white fascist policing, good, etc. She's literally just a member of Antifa judging debate rounds. And that's disturbing. I don't like it. For example, if the arc of your argument is about how Afghanistan can never be self-reliant and is inherently full of terrorists, thus requiring U.S. imperialist rule, you will lose regardless of what happens on the flow. The bright line for what I described above is liberalism, or in other words, I will still evaluate soft left positions / arguments. Oh, that's nice of her. Those which represent the liberal wing of the bourgeois. To be clear, this is not because liberalism is any less counter-revolutionary or less of a weapon of monopoly capitalism than rightism is. Nor is this a modern revisionist nonsense which posits that it is the peaceful wing of the bourgeois and thus imperialism. What is happening? I can't handle reading this. Okay, let's go back to the article. I'm done with this. I cannot check this, blah, 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 blah. Okay, cool. How does that sophomore feel as she walks into her debate round? How will knowing that information about the judge change the way she makes her case? Traditionally, high school students would have encountered a judge like former West Point debater Henry Smith, whose paradigm asks students to focus on clarity over speed and reminds them that every argument should explain exactly how they win the debate. That's how a judge should judge, right? With great clarity, with great brevity, very, very simple. None of this revolutionary BS. It's just so frustrating to me, especially since I used to do this and it used to be a really important part of my life. Debate judge Kriti Sharma concurs. Under her list of things that will cause you to automatically lose, number 3 is referring to immigrants as illegal. Fascinating. In the past few years, however, okay, so I skipped it. skipped a sentence here, forgive me, interjected in between those two is, in the past few years, however, judges with paradigms tainted by politics and ideology are becoming common. Debate judge Shubham Gupta's paradigm reads, if you are discussing immigrants in a round and describe the person as illegal, I will immediately stop the round, give you the loss with low speaker points, give you a stern lecture, and then talk to your coach. I will not have you making the debate space unsafe. And here's another judge who's doing the exact same thing. Should a high school student automatically lose and be publicly humiliated for using a term that is not only ubiquitous in media and politics, but accurate? Once students have been exposed to enough of these partisan paradigms, they internalize the point of view and adjust their arguments going forward. That's scary. I personally find self-censorship to be much more terrifying than almost any other form of censorship. Seriously, Jack from Twitter can censor you as much as he likes, but you'll still hold those ideas in your head. If the words coming out of your mouth are censored by your own brain because you feel like that's the only way that you can win in a situation, that's a serious issue. Something is wrong with our society. That's why you rarely see students present arguments in favor of capitalism, defunding Israel, or challenging affirmative action. Most students choose not to fight with this coercion. They see it as a necessary evil that's required to win debates to secure the accolades, scholarships, and college acceptance letters that can come with winning. On paper, the NSDA rejects what Lavender, Gupta, and Sharma are doing. Its rules state judges should decide the round as it's debated, not based on their personal beliefs. Right, that's how it's supposed to be. Founded in 1925, the NSDA chooses the debate topics and facilitates hundreds of tournaments, including the annual national tournament starting June 11th in Arizona. Goodness gracious, what did these poor people do to end up in hell? Where 6,000 students from across the country will compete. The NSDA did not respond to emails and phone calls asking for comment. Shocking. A random scroll through Tab Room reveals there are still sane judges out there. Of course, there will always be sane people. There are just a few Marxist-Leninist revolutionaries. I like clash, quality evidence from qualified sources, comparative analysis, and crystallization in last rebuttals. Don't take anything for granted. You have to explain your arguments, why your evidence is compelling, and how the arguments weigh in the round. It's your job to persuade me and communicate your positions in a way that's effective, and that is how you will win on my ballot. I don't like whining, personal attacks, dominance, aggression, and disrespect. I do appreciate professionalism, kindness, and integrity. Or this paradigm from debate judge Stephen McCartney. My favorite debates are rigorous but friendly. I actually appreciate when one debater accepts one of their opponent's arguments as valid but still persuades me that they should win the round. I will make my decision based on who is the most persuasive, but persuading me will be done by showing with evidence that one side upholds their value and criterion better than the other side. In order to do this, a debater must speak slowly and clearly enough for me to hear and understand the arguments. Unfortunately for students and their parents, there are countless judges at tournaments across the country whose biased paradigms disqualify them from being impartial adjudicators of debate. From I will drop America First framing in a heartbeat to I will listen to conservative-leaning arguments but be careful, judges are making it clear they are not only tilting the debate in a left-wing direction, they will also penalize students who don't adhere to their ideology. In the past year, Lindsay Schrodeck has judged over 120 students at tournaments in Massachusetts, New York, and New Jersey. The NSDA has certified her with its Cultural Competency Badge, which indicates she has completed a brief online training module in evaluating students with consideration for their identity and cultural background. Oh boy, that's great. Until last month, Schrodeck's paradigm told debaters, if you are white, don't run arguments with impacts that primarily affect POC. These arguments should belong to the communities they affect. Recently, her paradigm was updated to eliminate that quote. When I asked Schrodeck why, she told me she didn't eliminate the idea itself and that she doesn't know if it's exactly my place to say what arguments will or won't make marginalized communities feel unsafe in the debate space. So she outwoked herself. She's like, well, I can't really say, but she was originally telling white people that they couldn't make any arguments that had any relation to anyone from any other communities. Wow. I disagree. In debate, unsafe conversation should be encouraged, even celebrated. How better for young people from all backgrounds to bridge the divides that tear us apart and to discover what unites them. The debate I knew taught me to think and learn and care about issues that affect people different from me. We've come a long way from the 2004 Democratic National Convention when an obscure state senator from Illinois named Barack Obama said, if there's a child on the south side of Chicago who can't read, that matters to me, even if it's not my child. If there's an Arab American family being rounded up without the benefit of an attorney or due process, that threatens my civil liberties. It's that fundamental belief, I am my brother's keeper, I am my sister's keeper, that make this country work. It's what allows us to pursue our individual dreams, yet still come together as a single American family. 20 years ago, the NSDA I knew encouraged me to think and speak about how policies and issues impacted different communities. Not anymore. One judge gives people of color priority in her debates. In general, students voluntarily and mutually disclose their evidence to their opponents before the debate round, as both teams benefit from spending more time with the other team's evidence. But Braithwaite, ex-Braithwaite, who's judged 169 debate rounds with 340 students, has her own disclosure policy in her paradigm, which uses racial epithets. N-words don't have to disclose to you. Disclose to N-words. I'm so confused and terrified by this paradigm. Holy cow. This is racial discrimination, of course. If you are black, you get to keep your evidence to yourself and have a competitive advantage. If you're not, you must disclose all of your evidence to your opponent and accept a competitive disadvantage. I would refuse to disclose my evidence. Why would I? She'd probably give me the loss, but I don't care. It's not fair. I just have to lose that round. But this is so unfair to kids who are trying to learn how to debate. And I realize as I'm reading this article that I am a huge nerd because I really, really enjoy this stuff, just like I did when I was 15, 16, 17. So I'm not going to read the whole thing. It is a lot. I know that most people don't find it as fascinating as I did then and do now, but I think this is really what made me so interested in learning how to read the news and how to parse it for truth and how to look for biases. It's so important, and these are skills that every single person can benefit from when I see it being disincentivized, where it should be most heavily emphasized, that is during speech and debate rounds. I take issue with it. I find it discouraging, and it shouldn't surprise me, but this makes me want to look into the Christian debate league that I used to go into and see if they're still around, see what they're up to, and hope that they will still be there when it's time for my kids to get involved. I have judged a few speech and debate rounds, and it's a lot of fun. Really recommend it. If there are any in your area, you should go and check them out. If you have the option to list your paradigms, make it clear that you are not like these communist judges. This is crazy to me. Nobody should be silenced from voicing their own beliefs because their judge thinks that their views are bad. Sorry. I'm putting that very simply, but it's 100% true. It's absolutely wild to me. All right, let's hustle on. We're going to read about Ibram Kendi. Seattle firefighters now drilled on Ibram Kendi before being promoted to top jobs. Lieutenant's test includes how to be an anti-racist, memoirs of a transgender firefighter, and other woke tomes. Shocking. Way to go, Washington. Of all the jobs in a standard fire department, the lieutenant's is among the most difficult. When a fire truck approaches a blaze, the lieutenant decides how to tackle it, what windows to breach, which floors to prioritize, and how best to deploy the truck's 3 to 4 firefighters against a shifting, inanimate enemy. To see if they're up to snuff, most departments administer a written test, typically multiple choice, to prospective lieutenants. Candidates must score above a cutoff to be considered for a job, with higher scores increasing the odds of promotion. The exam, which covers a litany of topics from building construction to medical techniques, is designed to ensure that the people making life and death decisions know the bare minimum to make them well. So firefighters in Seattle, Washington were surprised when their department's lieutenant exam focused almost as much on social justice as on firefighting. This is going to make society so much worse. Wow. The test, which has both written and oral components, is based on a list of texts signed by the Seattle Department of Human Resources. The Seattle Department, they have a city Department of Human Resources, including, as of this year, How to Be an Anti-Racist by Ibram Kendi and Both Sides of the Fire Lane, Memoirs of a Transgender Firefighter by Bobby Scopa, according to a copy of the exam bibliography obtained by the Washington Free Beacon. Along with A Leader's Guide to the Unconscious Bias and Fighting Fire, a memoir by a female firefighter, the books about race and gender span over 800 pages, a large fraction of the total study material. Really making Washington safer here. Let's see if we can see anything in this. Oh, it's not going to let me make it bigger. Oh well. This stuff has nothing to do with firefighting, said Wayne Johnson, a retired Seattle firefighter who helped write some of the city's promotional tests. It has everything to do with social engineering. The exam is part of a much larger effort to diversify a department that, as Seattle Fire Chief Harold Scoggins lamented last year, is overwhelmingly white men. Okay, so this is a little bit like Pete Buttigieg talking about construction workers being overwhelmingly white. It is a non-issue. If the job gets done and gets done well, you need to STFU and get on with business because you want it to work well. Firefighting especially is one of those things that you just want to work well. Fire doesn't care what color the firefighters are, and it never will. It will make no difference ever. But you know what will make a difference? If they emphasize anti-racism over actual safety training, what's going to happen when a leader in the city of Seattle is faced with a fire at their home and the lieutenant in the fire truck has been trained more heavily and more emphatically on Ibram Kendi than he has been on first aid? Going to be a problem for them. It would be a problem for anyone. This affects everyone who is faced with a life-threatening situation. I digress. In fact, in 2021, local officials, including Scoggins, commissioned a report on diversifying in the fire service. One of its recommendations avoids tests that rely heavily on knowledge of firefighting. That makes sense. Tests that focus on how well applicants know the system and the job tend to favor those who make up the overwhelming majority of the fire service workforce, white men. Questions that ask more about the candidate's character and values rather than knowing the ins and outs of the job can be beneficial in advancing more women and POC. Seattle appears to have taken that advice. Goodness gracious. In an upcoming fire test for fireboat engineers who operate the pumps and nozzles used to douse coastal fires, will quiz candidates on Robin DiAngelo's Is Everyone Really Equal? An Introduction to Key Concepts on Social Justice Education, according to the exam bibliography. The fire captain's exam likewise assigns DiAngelo's books along with handouts on the structural interplay between oppression, while the exam is battalion chiefs assigns the 2021 report on fire service diversity. Seattle's tests are an outlier. In most cities, even Democratic strongholds like Boston and New Haven, written fire exams test only tactical knowledge. But in Seattle, where Scoggins himself helped protesters seal off the Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone in the wake of George Floyd's death, of course he did. Promotions hinge on mastering these ideological tomes. And I just have to stop and say, I think that these people should be studying safety literature much more than they should be studying Ibram Kendi's work. I know it's a strong stance to take, but somebody's got to take it. Firefighters who sat for the 2021 lieutenant's promotion exam said how to be an anti-racist was an integral part with basics, while basics like fire behavior took a back seat. If I'd only read that one book, I would have done really well, Andy Pittman, a former member of the Seattle Fire Department, said. What we should be studying, high-rise fires, water supply, wasn't emphasized as heavily. Pittman, who is Japanese as well as an Alaskan native, said he scored well in the tactics portion of the exam conducted via video, but he hadn't expected the written portion, which received the most weight, to be slanted so toward race and identity. While technically above the pass-fail cutoff, his overall score was low tanked in part, he said, by the political questions. Of course, because if you're actually paying attention to what you actually should be reading as an applicant for someone who is tasked with putting out deadly fires, you're not going to have a whole lot of time for critical theory. I'm sorry. And I say this from a very, very blue city. And it's likely our neighbors can hear us, so hopefully they still like us at the end of this. I just found this really, really interesting because it's so troubling to me, because this is exactly what I saw when I was working in healthcare. I used to look at these in-services that were about making people who were generously sized feel very comfortable in their skin. And I was like, I totally understand, but shouldn't we as healthcare professionals be telling these people that it will benefit them if they are not so generously sized? And I thought, this is only going to get worse. And that was back in 2017, 2018. And it has. It's gotten way worse. And that's such an important area. That's such an important part of life, right? Healthcare is crucial. Firefighting is crucial. The military is crucial. This is not stuff you can debate with. This isn't stuff you should be playing with. No one should be talking about white privilege when it comes to putting out building fires, when it comes to putting out industrial fires, when it comes to figuring out how to save people's lives. but we are. Why? Because we're not a serious society. We care more about the interplay of different kinds of oppression than we do about actually saving human life. And it's possible that our disregard for human life is just coming out even more strongly here because we already have medical assistance dying up in Canada. We already have abortion and have had for years and years, for decades. 66 plus million babies gone because of it. We don't care about human life. So why would we care if telling someone who's heavily, heavily, heavily overweight and who is about to die because of their weight, that they should probably change the way they eat and the way they move? It just doesn't matter. Human life just doesn't matter. Social justice is more important. The interplay of different kinds of oppression is more important. That's terrifying. It needs to stop. This is why we fight the culture war, okay? I see a lot of people from the right, a lot of libertarians say, what's the point? The culture war is such a distraction, especially coming from Team Trump. Don't worry about the culture war. It's not a big deal. Abortion isn't a winning issue, even though it certainly is, as more and more of these bills are passing in multiple different states all across the country. It's a wave. We have 6-week bans. We have 12-week bans. People are slow marching abortion back to where it belongs, and that is hell, to be fair. And they're telling us that it's a losing issue. As far as I'm concerned, those are left-wing operatives. This is the most important thing that we can possibly be focusing on. Politics is downstream of culture. At this point, politics is culture. Everything we do here echoes in our politics, and we need to act accordingly. It is 7:56 on a Friday evening, and I need to go make steak for Andy. We are going to thoroughly enjoy it. I hope that you all have steak on the grill tonight as well. It's a beautiful evening. I hope you are all thoroughly enjoying it going into this long weekend. As Kamala Harris says, enjoy the long weekend, and then a horrifying laugh, if I recall correctly from a few years ago. Go enjoy yourselves. Remember why we celebrate. It's very important to commemorate the people who made it so that we can live our lives free and happy and healthy. We are losing that, and we need to be fighting for it. So use this weekend to rally yourself and make sure you remember why we're fighting and who we're fighting for. I believe I will be back on Monday night. If I'm not, I will see you guys on Tuesday. Make up my mind somewhere over the course of the weekend and see what's up. All right, you guys, again, have a great weekend. Remember what I say, or what I will be saying going forward. Stay well, stay safe, stay out of Target. Until next time. All right, let me scroll down a little bit. All right, until next time. Bye, guys. How's it going?